impressionante. Oh, yes.
Well, how many of you here today believe that there's a time to be born, there's a time to grow, there's a time to find and learn and explore, there's a time to keep things the way they are?
Yeah, sure.
I think we can all pretty much agree on those things. Now, how do you think they could pertain to Jewel Cave?
Things as they are, for sure.
Well, today is your time to learn, so hopefully as we go through, you will learn how these things can pertain to a cave also. I'll go ahead and take there's a time to be born. Now, we can actually look at the cave as being born in two ways. One maybe is when the limestone that's dissolved out of was deposited. That was about 300 million years ago when there was a small inland sea in this part of the country. Or you can look at it as being born when the Black Hills were uplifted, and that meant the limestone got cracked, allowed water into it, which dissolved away the limestone into the cave that we have today. Or a third way that you can look at it as being born was when it was discovered by humans. That was actually in the year 1900. It was discovered by two brothers named Frank and Albert Michaud. They discovered this is called nail-head spar. It's much bigger, it's kind of flat on top, and it ranges from 6 to 8 inches thick on the walls throughout the cave. This is actually how it got its name. When the Michaud brothers came in here and their lights hit these crystals, the way... Everybody? Okay, your name?
Dale.
Dave? Are you sure you're up?
Dale.
Dale, okay, sorry. Are you sure you're up to this, Dale?
Sure.
Okay. We're starting out with 22 people. So that means that if I can... Well, that's the longest set of stairs that we have to go down, and no, we don't have to go back up all those stairs. So don't worry. Just had a really good question. They asked if we get any large pieces cracking off and falling. Actually, no, we don't. They think most of the rocks fell while the cave was still full of water. The reason they believe that down in the cave floor where we are. We just don't find evidence of that. We do find evidence that something was in here that caught these rocks and let them settle into place where they are now. Most likely that was the water. And they believe the water started to recede out of the cave around 55 to 60 million years ago and up on the surface. Simply because the shock waves were more severe the closer to the surface that they get. So we could get some damage or a lot of damage on the surface and not...
But you can't really get it, because you can only see such a small portion.
Was that your wife that went back?
Yes.
Well, you should be able to see at least the circumference of it. I did discover on one end.
It's like inside the stone.
That's what it is, yeah. Was it a living thing that you saw? Like little things, crystals too.
This,
Yeah.
I was just getting ready to call,
No, not that. That's that.
this nail head spar.
Nail heads.
Right. Right.
It's
The
not a
other was
crystal.
sharp and pointed, was dog tooth.
Oh, okay. Is it also crystal?
It's crystal.
Oh, okay.
Well, I know some of you said this was going to be the first time into a cave for you. But for those of you that have been in a cave before, have any of you been to Wind Cave National Park here in the Black Hills?
No.
Oh, okay. You were as a kid, okay. Do you by chance remember any differences? They look exactly the same, it's going to have the same crystal structure. But they're very different caves. For one thing, Wind Cave's a lot smaller. The passageways are really narrow, the rooms are small, and the ceilings are low. They also don't have the calcite crystals on the walls like we do here. But they do have those, another formation that we have very little of.
That looks strange. Be careful.
But does any of you know what the real nature of the cave is, or what it really looks like? Pitch black, right. It's very, very dark. There is no sunlight in a cave. And we can experience that in this room if you would like, what's here. When you do that, you might find things like this. Not really, it's flowstone. And this is formed by the water running over the rocks and leaving a thin film of calcite. The colors that you see are from the minerals that are being deposited out of the water. Here we have the ribbon rock or the curtain rock, and this is formed basically the same as the flowstone. When the water is going a little slower, it's actually dripping over the edges of the rocks. Up above, we do have the draperies, and these draperies do form all along the crack here, and they continue on down the wall. Then we do have the stalactites, that's what all these are here, and the stalagmites. If you notice here, we have a stalactite and stalagmite that are pretty close to joining together, at least in geologic times. When they do join together, they'll form what we call a column. They'll be one solid piece. We do have a formation that looks like a column in this room with this formation here. As you can see, it starts up here and it joins with this rock here. But what this really is what we call a soda straw. And these differ from stalactites because they're one thickness all the way down, and they're hollow in the center. They actually think they're formed because when the water comes through the ceiling, it just has enough calcite to be left around the outside of the drop. So in each drop that comes through, it just leaves the calcite where the original was left. And that's how they form. So these are some of the formations you'll find when you go out exploring in the cave. Now there's some things you'll find along a tour route you won't find in any other parts of the cave. You'll see it some more throughout the cave. It's actually what they call paleofill. What they believe this is that when the limestone was first cracked, they believe small caves and fissures were formed. It's still growing. We know that because the water is still out. Yeah, it gets stuck. What do you think it looks like? Right, it's really fall.
Is it longer than that?
It goes on up. There's 26 feet long. Some minerals that come out of the water. Yeah.
It's hard to keep it out.
I know, huh? Well, watch your leg now. This black stuff down your pants.
What's that? Yeah. You know, it's
His name is Bridget.
Like the widow is Jane.
Ah.
Because she's my sister. Looks like bacon to eat, doesn't it?
You see any difference? No. As the years pass?
No, it goes so slow.
So slow.
But you can't see it.
Well, so far today has been our time to look. So if you guys have any ideas, we'll take any suggestions. That room, they figure you can fit 2 to 3 football fields in lengthwise and 2 or 3 across. And it reaches anywhere from 30 feet high to over 150 feet high. So based on that, some geologists are starting to believe that maybe this is just a subdivision of the cave. And the area that we're actually finding and exploring now is actually the main part of the cave. It's kind of getting exciting to think that 100 There was no water in this part of the cave at all. But when they built the rangers' houses on the surface in the 1980s, the water started to come in here. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for us. On one part, we're always trying to keep the cave as natural as possible and not change it, so that future generations can enjoy it like we have. On the other hand, we're starting to see new formations being formed in here. And that might help us explain some of the formations we have. Questions you'd like me to answer before we head back to the surface?
Will they make from the tour as you explore?
Right now, they don't have any plans.
Você, eu vi, mas você não filmou, né?
Não sei se eu peguei ou não.
Ótimo. Eu nunca vi uma coisa igual. Juro que eu nunca vi uma coisa igual. Uma das patas, das pernas.